Commander Maya Park's boots echoed against the polished metal floor as she walked through the docking bay of Orbital Station 7. Her black uniform was perfectly pressed, the golden wings on her chest catching the light from the massive viewport showing Earth below. 23 combat medals decorated her left breast, each one earned through impossible battles that had saved countless lives across the galaxy. The Aurora Dawn waited ahead, a sleek passenger liner designed for luxury travel between star systems. Its hull gleamed white and silver, with elegant curves that made it look more like a yacht than a spacecraft. This was supposed to be easy duty. Just fly some diplomats and wealthy passengers to Centauri, station for trade negotiations. After leading fighter squadrons through the Zephyrian War and navigating black hole clusters that would terrify veteran pilots, ferrying civilians should be relaxing. Maya nodded to the security checkpoint officer, a young man whose eyes widened when he saw her rank insignia. Word traveled fast in military circles. Everyone knew about the pilot who had flown solo through 3 enemy fleets to deliver medical supplies to a dying colony. The woman who had outmaneuvered alien ace pilots in ships twice as fast as hers docked as she approached the boarding ramp. Maya noticed the other passengers already settling into their seats through the transparent aluminum windows, wealthy merchants, inexpensive suits, a few alien diplomats with their strange customs, and several families heading to the outer colonies for new opportunities. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly beneath her feet as she stepped aboard. The interior was nothing like the military vessels Maya usually commanded. Soft carpeting replaced metal grating, and real wood paneling lined the walls instead of bare steel. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and each passenger seat looked more comfortable than an entire quarters back on the battle cruiser. Indomitable, welcome aboard, Commander Park. Captain Quanley approached from the bridge, his tall frame and blue-tinted skin marking him as Genteri. The alien's forearms moved gracefully as he gestured toward the cockpit. It is honored to have. Pilot of your reputation flying my ship. Maya smiled and shook 2 of his hands simultaneously, a Genteri custom she'd learned during the war. The honor's mine. Captain, your ship is beautiful. Excuse me. The voice cut through their conversation like a laser blade. Excuse me. Maya turned to see a woman marching toward them, her platinum blonde hair style in an elaborate arrangement. That probably cost more than most people earned in a month. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists, and her white pantsuit screamed expensive design label. Her face was already flushed red with anger. I demand to speak to whoever's in charge here, the woman announced, her voice carrying across the passenger compartment. Other travelers looked up from their reading tablets and conversation to watch the commotion. There's been some terrible mistake. Maya stepped forward calmly, her hands clasped behind her back in military parade rest. I'm Commander Park, the pilot for this flight. How can I help you, ma'am? The woman's eyes widened as they took in Maya's appearance, her expression shifting from annoyed to disgusted. Oh, absolutely not. No way. I paid premium fare for this trip, and I will not have some. She paused, looking Maya up and down with obvious contempt. Some person like you flying this ship. Where's the real pilot? The passenger compartment fell silent. Even the soft background hum of the ship's systems seemed muted. Maya felt every eye in the cabin watching this confrontation unfold. Captain Lee's translator device crackled to life, converting his native clicks and whistles into accented English. Commander Park credentials are excellent. Human pilot skill is legendary among our people. She has saved many lives. I don't care what you aliens think, the woman shrieked, her voice rising to a pitch that made several passengers wince. I have rights. I paid good money, and she doesn't belong in that cockpit, a floating, gaseous creature near the window. one of the Velmoth species that looked like a shimmering cloud contained in an environmental suit, pulsed with confused colors. Their translator spoke in a melodic tone. "We do not understand, Commander. Power qualifications are superior to most pilots in known galaxy." The blonde woman whirled on the alien. "Stay out of this, you floating freak. This is between humans." Maya's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign of her growing anger. She'd faced down enemy warships without flinching, but ignorance and hatred still had the power to cut deep. Round the passenger compartment, other humans shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some nodded in agreement with the woman's outburst. Others stared at their feet, clearly embarrassed but unwilling to speak up. A well-dressed businessman in the front row cleared his throat. "Perhaps there's another pilot available. Someone more." Traditional, the words hung in the air like poison, gas spreading through the cabin and infecting everyone they touched. The first 3 hours of the journey had passed in 10 seconds. Maya sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls as the Aurora Dawn cruised through hyperspace. The stars outside stretched into brilliant lines of light, and the ship's engines hummed with quiet power. Behind her, the passengers had settled into an uncomfortable quiet after Margaret Thornfield's earlier outburst. Maya checked the navigation display. They were approaching the Kepler Nebula, a region of space known for its beautiful colors but also for the ancient battlefield hidden within its swirling gases. Thousands of years ago, two massive civilizations had fought their final war here, leaving behind ruins that still drifted through the cosmic dust. The proximity sensors began beeping softly. Maya frowned and adjusted the display. Something was out there, but the readings were strange. The objects were too large to be ordinary asteroids, yet too small to be planets or moons. Suddenly, the ship's alarm system exploded into life. Red warning lights flashed across every control panel, and a piercing siren filled the bridge. Maya's training kicked in instantly. Her fingers flew across the control panel, trying to identify the threat. Ancient debris field ahead. Maya called out, her voice calm despite the chaos of alarms round her. "Navigation systems are having trouble getting a clear reading through all this interference." Captain Lee came running onto the bridge, his forearms moving rapidly as he checked different stations. "What kind of debris?" "The star charts show this area as clear space." Maya's eyes widened as she stared at the main view screen. "Wait, those aren't asteroids." Through the swirling purple and gold gases of the nebula, massive shapes began to emerge. What they had thought was space junk revealed itself as something far more dangerous. Sleek metallic structures, each one the size of a city block, drifted in perfect formation. Their surfaces were covered in strange symbols that glowed with an eerie blue light. "Oh no," whispered engineer Yuki Tanaka from her station. The young woman's face had gone pale as she studied her sensor readings. "Those are automated defense drones from the predecessor wars," as if responding to her words. The massive machines suddenly came alive. Weapon ports opened along their hulls like mechanical flowers blooming in the darkness. Energy began building inside each opening, casting long shadows across the nebula. Maya's hands moved with lightning speed across the control panel. "All passengers, secure yourselves immediately. We are under attack. This is not a drill." The first plasma blast erupted from the lead drone, a beam of pure energy that lit up space like a miniature sun. Maya threw the ship into a sharp dive, and the blast passed just overhead, close enough that the heat sensor screamed warnings. The Aurora Dawn shuddered as the energy wave passed by. In the passenger compartment, people grabbed their armrests and screamed. Drinks spilled across expensive clothing, and several aliens made distressed sounds in their native languages. "They're targeting our engines." Captain Lee shouted over the noise of more alarms joining the symphony of danger. Another plasma beam lanced through space, this one closer than the first. Maya rolled the ship hard to starboard, using every trick she'd learned in combat. The luxury liner wasn't built for battle maneuvers, but she pushed it to its limits anyway. G-forces pressed everyone back into their seats as the ship twisted through space like a dancer avoiding death, through the transparent aluminum windows. Passengers could see more drones emerging from the nebula, dozens of them, then hundreds. Each one was a masterpiece of ancient engineering, designed by a civilization that had mastered war before humanity even discovered fire. In the passenger compartment, Margaret Thornfield's voice rose above the chaos. "This is her fault," she screamed, pointing an accusing finger toward the bridge. "That woman is going to get us all killed. I knew we should never have trusted her." Some passengers nodded in agreement, their fear making them look for someone to blame. Others held on for dear life as Maya threw the ship into another evasive maneuver. The artificial gravity system struggled to keep up with the violent movements, and several people lost their lunch. Maya's voice came over the intercom. Steady and professional despite the impossible situation, "All passengers, secure yourselves. We're going to try to make it through this debris field, but it's going to get rough." A third plasma blast struck the ship's rear shields, sending sparks flying from control panels throughout the vessel. The lights flickered, and for a moment, everyone thought they were about to die in the cold darkness of space. But Maya's hands never stopped moving. She had fought in battles that would make veteran soldiers weep, and she wasn't about to let a bunch of ancient machines defeat her now. The ship dove deeper into the nebula, weaving between the massive drones like a minnow, swimming through a school of sharks. More energy beams crisscrossed space around them, each one close enough to feel. The drones were learning, adapting their targeting systems to match Maya's flying patterns. Soon, there would be nowhere left to run. The Aurora Dawn spun through space like a leaf caught in a hurricane. But Maya's hands remained steady on the controls. What should have been certain death became an impossible dance as she threw the ship into a corkscrew dive that no textbook had ever described. Two massive drones, each one bristling with enough firepower to level a city, fired simultaneously at the exact spot where the ship should have been. But Maya wasn't there anymore. The luxury liner twisted between the giants like a thread being pulled through a needle, missing their holes by mere meters. Plasma beams that could have vaporized mountains crossed paths in empty space, creating a light show that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so deadly. On the bridge, Captain Lee's eyes tracked Maya's movements with growing amazement. His species had been spacefaring for over 3,000 years, and he had never seen anything like this. The Ginteri were known throughout the galaxy for their precision and calculation. But what Maya was doing went beyond mere skill. Impossible. He whispered in his native tongue, forgetting to use the translator. "She moves before they fire." Dr. Hanakim, the ship's xenobiologist, had pulled up a neural scanner at her station. The device was designed to monitor alien crew members for signs of distress, but she had turned it toward the pilot's seat instead. What she saw made her gasp. "Fascinating," she murmured, watching the readout spike beyond anything she had ever recorded. "Her brain activity is completely off the charts. Look at these neural pathways lighting up." The scanner showed Maya's mind working at superhuman speeds, regions responsible for spatial awareness, pattern recognition, and predictive analysis were firing in perfect synchronization. It was like watching a master pianist play a symphony. If the piano had 1,000 keys and the music was being written in real time. Another drone appeared directly in front of them, its weapon ports glowing with deadly energy. Maya saw it coming 3 seconds before the sensors registered the threat. She pulled the ship up in a vertical climb that should have torn the hull apart, but somehow the Aurora Dawn held together. Captain Lee's translator crackled to life as he spoke rapidly with his science officer, Velta. The younger Ginteri had been studying human behavior for years, but what he was witnessing challenged everything he thought he knew about the species. Velta approached Dr. Kim, his blue skin flickering with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep curiosity. "Your species," he said through his translator. "How do you process three-dimensional combat so quickly? Our computers cannot calculate these trajectories fast enough." Yet she does it without thinking. Dr. Kim smiled grimly as another plasma blast lit up the darkness around them, close enough to feel the heat through the ship's shields. "Evolution," she said simply. "Humans are persistence hunters. For millions of years, our ancestors chased prey through dense forests, calculating jumps between tree branches, predicting where a running animal would be seconds before it got there." She gestured toward Maya, who was now threading the ship through a maze of energy beams that would have been impossible for any computer to navigate. "We developed the ability to track movement in 3 dimensions instinctively. Most humans can. Catch a ball thrown at them without thinking about physics equations." Commander Park represents the absolute peak of human spatial intelligence. Through the view screen, more drones emerged from the swirling nebula gases. They moved with mechanical precision, forming attack patterns that had been perfected over countless battles. Their ancient programming was adapting to Maya's flying style. Learning from each near miss, Maya's eyes narrowed as she studied their formation. Her brain processed the information faster than any computer could have managed. She saw the pattern in their movements, the mathematical precision that governed their attacks. More importantly, she saw their weakness. "I've got an idea," she announced, her voice calm despite the chaos erupting round them. "But everyone needs to trust me. What I'm about to do is going to look insane." In the passenger compartment, even Margaret Thornfield had stopped her screaming. The wealthy woman sat frozen in her seat, watching through the windows as Maya somehow kept them alive against impossible odds. The hatred in her eyes had been replaced by something else entirely, a growing realization that she was witnessing something extraordinary. The Velnoth passenger near the window pulsed with colors that Dr. Kim recognized as profound. Respect. Their species communicated through electromagnetic patterns, and the display was the equivalent of a standing ovation. Even they, beings of pure energy who existed partly outside normal space-time, were impressed by Maya's abilities. "The drones," Maya continued, her fingers dancing across the control panel as she prepared for what came next. "They're not just attacking randomly. They're hurting us, pushing us towards something." Another energy beam missed them by inches, and Maya used its momentum to slingshot round a piece of ancient debris. The maneuver was so precise that she managed to use the drone's own weapon as a propulsion system. "Whatever they're hurting us toward," she said, "that's where we need to go. Sometimes the only way out is through." Maya's eyes locked onto the massive structure ahead of them, and what she saw would have made any sane pilot turn round and run. It was a colossal piece of ancient architecture, easily the size of a small moon, slowly rotating as it drifted through the nebula. But this wasn't just any debris. It was actively collapsing, massive sections breaking away and tumbling through space like deadly mountains. "The drones are programmed to target the biggest threat," Maya explained, her voice remarkably steady. Despite the energy beams still flashing round their ship, they identified danger by analyzing movement patterns, energy signatures, and threat assessment algorithms that are thousands of years old. She pointed toward the collapsing megastructure, where twisted spires of unknown metal were breaking apart in slow motion. Each piece that fell was larger than their entire ship, and the gaps between them were closing with mathematical precision. "I'm going to make us look dead while threading through that maze." Maya continued, "If we can convince their sensors that we're just another piece of debris, They might leave us alone long enough to escape. Margaret Thornfield's face went white as snow. That's suicide, she shrieked, gripping her armrest so tightly her knuckles went pale. You'll kill us all. No one could fly through that death trap. Captain Lee turned to look at her. His alien features calm despite the chaos. No, he said quietly, his translator giving his words a thoughtful tone. That's human. Maya's hands moved across the control panel with surgical precision. She shut down the main engines, plunging them into an eerie quiet that was broken only by the distant rumble of the collapsing. Structure ahead, emergency thrusters, fired in random bursts, making the Aurora Dawn tumble through space like a piece of wreckage. Everyone hold on, Myra announced over the intercom. This is going to feel like the ship is falling apart. But that's exactly what I want those drones to think. Sparks began flying from overloaded control systems as Maya pushed every circuit beyond its design limits. She was manually controlling systems that were meant to be run by computers, her brain calculating thrust vectors and trajectory adjustments faster than any machine ever built. The ship dove toward the megastructure like a moth flying into a campfire. Round them, the ancient drones followed in perfect formation, their weapons charging for what they expected to be the killing blow. But as the Aurora Dawn entered the shadow of the collapsing giant, something unexpected happened. The drones' sensors began registering the ship as debris. Its erratic tumbling, combined with the massive energy signatures from the dying structure, confused their targeting systems. Maya had essentially made them invisible by hiding in plain sight. But now came the impossible part. The megastructure was collapsing in a pattern that would have challenged the greatest mathematicians in human history. Massive sections weighing billions of tons were falling in a complex dance of gravity and momentum. Maya had to predict where. Each piece would be seconds before it got there, then thread their ship through gaps that existed for only moments. Her hands moved faster than seemed possible for any human being. Left thruster for 0.7 seconds. Adjust pitch by 3 degrees. Roll starboard to avoid the falling spire. Dive under the massive beam that was rotating toward them like the hand of a cosmic clock. Dr. Kim watched her instruments incomplete, or the neural scanner was registering brain activity that shouldn't have been possible. She's calculating the collapse pattern in real time, she whispered to Captain Lee. No computer in the galaxy could process this much data this quickly. The ship slipped through a gap between two falling sections, each one easily large enough to crush a space station. Maya had calculated their movement so precisely that they passed within meters of both surfaces, using the gravitational pull of one to slingshot round the other, behind them. The pursuing drones tried to follow, but the rigid programming couldn't adapt to the chaotic environment. The first one smashed into a falling spire, its ancient hull crumpling like paper. The second tried to match Maya's impossible flight path and was crushed between two massive pieces of debris. Even the Velmuth engineer, a being of pure thought that existed partially outside normal space and time, pulsed with colors that indicated complete amazement. Their electromagnetic patterns translated through the ship's systems, such precision, such intuition. We have never witnessed anything like this. Maya guided the ship through a section where the structure was folding in on itself like origami made of starship armor. The mathematics involved would have required supercomputers running for days, but she solved it all in seconds using nothing but human instinct and millions of years of evolutionary programming. Margaret Thornfield sat frozen in her seat, no longer screaming, no longer complaining. She stared at Maya's profile through the bridge doorway, watching the intense concentration on the pilot's face. For the first time, she was beginning to understand what she was witnessing. This wasn't just flying. This was artistry at a level that defied explanation. The ship emerged from the far side of the collapsing structure into open space, and the pursuing drones were nowhere to be seen. They had either been destroyed or given up the chase, confused by prey that had seemingly vanished into debris dot as the Aurora Dawn cleared the final pieces of the collapsing megastructure. Maya expected to see empty space and distant stars instead. Her jaw dropped at what awaited them in the void. Massive warships hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the nearby nebula. But these weren't human vessels. The fleet stretched as far as the eye could see, representing dozens of different alien civilizations. Sleek crystalline ships from the Andorian coalition floated beside the organic-looking vessels of the Hive Collective. Ancient stone ships that belonged to the Eternal Watchers drifted near the energy-based constructs of the Quantum Lords. It was the largest gathering of alien technology Maya had ever seen. "Are we surrounded?" whispered Engineer Yuki Tanaka, her hands hovering over the emergency controls. Maya studied the formation carefully. The ships weren't pointing weapons at them. In fact, they seemed to be maintaining a respectful distance, almost like an honor guard rather than a hostile force. Captain Lee's translator crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The voice that emerged was deep and authoritative, speaking in perfectly translated English. "This is Fleet Admiral Colsith of the Galactic Council. We have been observing your trial. Commander Park." Maya blinked in confusion, still trying to catch her breath after the impossible flight through the collapsing structure. "Trial? What trial? We were just trying to survive those defense drones." "Precisely," the Admiral replied, and Maya could hear what sounded like approval in the alien voice. "The defense grid was left by the predecessors as a test, Commander. It has guarded this sector of space for over 12,000 years, waiting for a species worthy of their legacy." Through the main view screen, Maya could see one of the massive alien vessels moving closer. It was unlike anything in human databases, a ship that seemed to be built from living coral, with sections that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as it approached. Smaller craft began launching from its bays, each one carrying representatives from different worlds. Only those demonstrating exceptional individual skill combined with species unity may access the predecessor legacy coordinates, Admiral Colsith continued. The drones were programmed to test not just flying ability, but the capacity for different members of a species to work together under extreme pressure. Maya looked back at the passenger compartment, where humans and aliens sat together in stunned silence. Even Margaret Thornfield was quiet, her face pale as she processed what she was hearing. "In 12,000 years of testing," the Admiral added, "you are the first to succeed." Dr. Kim gasped as she checked her instruments. "Maya, look at this. The entire fleet is transmitting data streams. They're sharing information about us with their home worlds in real time." Through the view screen, representatives from across the galaxy watched their small transport ship with something that looked remarkably like reverence. Beings of pure energy shimmered in containment fields, while massive insectoid creatures communicated through complex pheromone clouds. Ancient mechanical minds that had outlived their creators sent signals through quantum entanglement networks. "The Galactic Council formally requests Earth's admission to our alliance," Admiral Colsith announced. The weight of those words hit everyone aboard the Aurora Dawn like a physical force. "Your species' capabilities are remarkable. Commander Park's display of skill, combined with your crew's ability to function as a unit despite internal conflicts, proves that humanity is ready to join the galactic community." Margaret Thornfield sat in complete stunned silence as the full implications crashed over like a tidal wave. The woman she had tried to humiliate, the pilot she had claimed didn't belong in the cockpit, had just earned humanity a place among the stars. Her prejudice hadn't just been wrong. It had nearly cost their entire species the greatest opportunity in human history. "Commander Park," Admiral Colsith continued. We offer you command of the first joint species exploration vessel. The ship will carry crews from 50 different worlds, seeking new frontiers beyond the edge of known space. Will you accept this position? Mai looked round the bridge at her fellow humans. Then back at the passenger compartment, her eyes found Margaret, whose face showed the dawning realization of how close her hatred had come to destroying everything. The other passengers, humans and aliens alike, watched her with expressions ranging from hope to amazement. I accept, Maya said simply, her voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system. On behalf of all humanity, celebration erupted throughout the alien fleet. Ships that had remained silent for millennia suddenly burst into light. Displays that painted the nebula in rainbow colors. The ancient Watcher's vessels began playing harmonious tones that resonated through space itself, while the energy beings danced in patterns that defy physics. In the passenger compartment, aliens and humans alike began cheering. Captain Lee's bioluminescent patterns flickered with joy, while the Velmuth engineer pulsed with colors that indicated pure happiness. Even some of the human passengers who had earlier supported Margaret's prejudice now looked ashamed of their behavior. Margaret finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. I'm sorry. Maya turned to face her, and for a moment, the bridge was completely silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. The woman who had just been offered command of the most advanced vessel in galactic history looked at the passenger who had tried to destroy her career. We all have room to grow, Maya said with quiet dignity. Outside the view screen, the stars awaited. And humanity had finally proven itself worthy of walking among them. The ND.